Good evening. Thursday, June the 2nd, 2022, and you're at the City of Opa-locka Charter Review Board. We're going to ask Board Member Banks if you would give us an invocation, and then we're going to stand. Oh, before we do that, roll call, please, first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Board Member Banks.
Here.
Board Member Vega.
Here.
Board Member Williams. Here. Board Chair Russell, and I'm
Here.
sorry, it's Board Vice Chair Williams.
Here.
Thank you.
Invocation, please, and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father God, we come to you this day and we ask you for your blessings upon us. We ask you, Lord, to give us all wisdom and knowledge to make the right decisions for this city, Father. We bless your holy name, Lord, and we bless each representative that is here today. Give us grace and mercy in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We would like to say welcome to everyone that is here, to all of our board members that had to weather the storm a little bit to get here. And I feel like I just did this last meeting, but again, we have senseless killings going on in these United States of America. And we know that the hate that's going around doesn't represent the majority of the people of this country, but it's so much going on to, we want to take a moment again of silence, not only for the children that lost their lives, but for the doctor and the assistant and the people at the medical, I don't know whether it was, I don't think it was a hospital, that lost their lives on yesterday. Let's take a moment of silence to remember those families. Thank you. Just ask God to have mercy on us people. Madam Clerk, are there any additions, changes, or deletions to the agenda?
No, Madam Chair, not that I'm aware of.
Thank you. Okay, we've had some time to approve the minutes. Can we get a motion for approval, please?
I second.
It's been motioned by Board Member Banks and second by Vice Chair Williams for the approval of the minutes. Roll call.
Yes.
Board Vice Chair Williams.
Yes.
Board Chair Russell.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0.
Are there anyone on virtual for citizens forum? Okay. We're going to open up public comments.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So we do have former Commissioner Dorothy Johnson on the line. We need to confirm whether or not she wants to speak under this public comment or the last public comment on the agenda.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. And I would like to speak briefly on both.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Excuse me.
Can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Excuse me?
Can you hear me?
Hello,
Hello, can you hear me?
Ms. Johnson.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, I see her hand is raised.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Ms. Johnson,
I'm here. Can you hear me?
can it be the will of the board for us to move that first public comments down a notch and go on with the presentation until we can try to get her on? The will of the board members?
I'm okay with that, yes.
Okay. Okay. Madam Attorney, we're going to move the public comment, that first public comment section down and because we can't get Ms. Johnson. on.
Sure.
She has her hand raised.
If you can just vote on the reorganization of the agenda,
Excuse me?
if you can just vote on reorganizing the agenda, just vote to do that.
Okay, can someone move it, please?
Move.
Second.
It's been moved and second to reorganize the agenda at this time to move public comments down to number 8 and move number 8 up to number 7. Roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Hello?
Chair Williams,
Yes.
Board Member Banks,
Yes.
Board Chair Russell,
Yes.
motion passes 3-0.
Thank you. Now we're going to have a discussion from our interim city manager, Mr. Williams, concerning the fiscal impact of the proposal to increase commission salary. And before Mr. Williams, you give that presentation, we would give you a little background. Someone wants to start? Give a little background on where we are. I don't know whether you've had time to watch all of our meetings, so I think it will be good for you to get a little bit of where we are.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
I'm happy to start. I'll just get my kind of document out. So I think so a big part of why we would like to understand the impact to the budget is really as it relates to some changes that we are looking into as it relates to the compensation for the commission. So one of the things that we are considering is, right now, if I'm not mistaken, the entire commission makes $6,000 a year. And so one of the things that we're looking at is what could that potentially look like, right? And what are the benefits that they might potentially get to go with that? So not just the salary, but things like, car stipend and phone stipend and insurance. So we are exploring that. And one of the big concerns that has come up is what is the impact to our current budget?
Right now, if I'm not mistaken,
budget,
entire commission makes
oversight,
$6,000. And so one of the things that we're looking at is what could that
very specific in terms of what we're interested in understanding is if we were to make this change and increase the salaries of the commission, how does that impact the budget? How does it impact the budget process? So where does that fit in? So if you can help give us a little bit of guidance there, that'd be great.
And also to add to it, there was some suggestions made, or some talk also that maybe it wouldn't go into effect on this current year, that maybe, if it was something that could go into effect the next year, or because when the election takes place, we will be in the middle of a budget. So it will have, we understand that it will have some type of impact on that budget. So, will it be more feasible if we as a board were to agree for it to go into effect after we come out of financial oversight, or give it a year to go into the next budget? So those are some of the concerns that we have. Board Member Banks, you would like to add anything to that?
Yes, Madam Chair. What I'm interested in, and my final answer on that is, I consider running the city like a business, okay? Regardless of how we look at it, it's a business still. I would like to know what impact, actually, I would like to know where we're gonna take it from. If it's approved and it goes through, I would like to know budgetary, where we would take that money from. Would it have any impact at all? And how far can we go with how much we can give them, okay? I'm not against giving them something because I believe they're entitled to something. But I want to know from a residential impact, because our tax dollars go towards this. Whatever money we put out, we need to know exactly where that money is going. It should be transparent. Should be very transparent as to where that money is going. If we desire to give them cars, phones, laptops, whatever the board may decide to pass for this, okay? I want to know, I want to talk about the money today. Where's that money going to come from? How's it going to impact our residents? How's it going to impact our taxes, our tax base? We're already at a high right now. And I don't think as residents, we could take anything else right now. I really don't. So I'd like to know where the money is going to, where we're going to tie it in. If we can get it through and we can give them something, which I'm almost sure, I could be wrong, and I'm hoping the city attorney will allow me to just say this from a budgetary reasons. I'm sure that this budget, we can't even think about it. But the impacts of what the next budget will be, how's it gonna affect us? How? Where can we tie it in? What are we gonna tie it into? Some examples of that. And, once you give me an example, I pretty much know where that budget, that line item is, okay? I can go with a projection of how the budget may look like and see if it's feasible, if it's something that we need to really get into. Again, our employees are at a standstill. It doesn't look good that we send a projection to the public that we're going to increase our commissioners while our employees are down here. It doesn't. I mean, it just doesn't. So finally, that's my request. I would like to know financial wise, where's this money going to come from? What we're going to tie it into, and how much impact will it have? Will we be able to go through it successfully with no problems at all? Or, can we do this for them? Because they are entitled to something. They do. They do quite a bit, but I just don't see getting it in right now when there are a lot of other things that we need to do. And they did take the oath of coming in knowing that the amount of money that they were getting, they were going to get. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Board Member Banks. And thank you to Mr. Williams as well. We received the chart that you had sent us from the League of Cities. We had received that document before. We have been discussing a formula. If the board decided that this was something that we will vote on and that we will approve, that we were going to tie it to some type of formula, not just come up with a number. So with that being said, floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. So I'd like to say thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all today. Based on what I've heard from the three board members that have spoken to give us some background on this or to give me some background on this, I think we're all on the same page. Sounds like you're already asking the right questions and at least proffering some of the right solutions. This is a cross-section truly between a legal process, an oversight process, and also a budgetary and financial process. So there's two different engines that are kind of driving this train. So I'm prepared to speak to both of those tonight. First of all, allow me to give you some background and give you my thoughts as the interim city manager on this topic. I support salaries for elected officials. And there's a reason why marketable salaries for elected officials, which I do not believe the current commission has. The reason why I believe that is I believe that it combats corruption. If you have a mayor that's collecting $6,000 for her duties, that leaves openings for influence to be fairly compensated. So at best and for par, we should have marketable compensation. Now let's speak of about the packet. Salaries of elected county constitutional officers and school district officials for fiscal year 2020-21. I'm super excited that you have already received this document before I submitted it to you. I'm also excited that you already reviewed it. The reason why I submitted this is because I first received your formula review request from the city clerk's office, and I immediately turned it over to Mr. Anthony. Even knowing having taken a momentary glance at it, some of the struggles that he was going to have. But I thought, I would let him give a stab at it first. If he hit some walls, and I would take a stab at it, and maybe he and I could work together to work the formula for you all. Upon that happening, Bob first took a stab at it. Then on the weekend, we came in together and we took a stab at it. We came to the conclusion that that's not a workable formula for you all based on our size, our population density, the variables, the constructs, the initiation dates. It just wasn't what we would recommend for you to proceed. That doesn't mean that we want you to pull a number out the air. We do believe that we can prepare a formula based off of vicinity of city and size of city, so that we can look at what is actually, if the city of Opa-locka was the size and the location of Hialeah, what would that compensation be? So that we can take that formula, extrapolate it down, and come up with a number that determines what would be a marketable salary, just like they do with houses. Take surrounding houses of similar size and their location to make a fiscal determination of what that value is. I think that is the exact type of formulation that we should be doing here. So it sounds like we all are in agreement that they should be having a marketable salary, and that's my recommendation for how to proceed. Now to two of the more important conversations. One, it is true that we are in financial oversight. I'm not the first city manager to support a salary for elected officials. Since we've been in financial oversight, the state has denied that request. So we need to really understand the power that the financial oversight committee has. Anything that can have a fiscal impact on the city of Opa-locka, so long as we're on state oversight, the state has the authority to vote up, vote down, weigh in, make recommendations, approve or disapprove. Certainly, increasing the salary for elected officials is something that we all would agree would have a fiscal impact, and is in the power of the Fiscal Oversight Committee to address. And they have been very hesitant when it comes to approving any type of financial compensation to elected officials, whether it be a car, which, as you would know, one of the first actions they took was to remove the vehicles from the elected officials, salary increases. They've been really stringent with the budget. I've gotten a verbal approval, not in writing yet, a verbal approval to increase their budgets for events to $10,000 each. Very excited for that. So that just kind of gives you a flavor and an understanding and a background of where we are with the support that we'll have in our current situation of approving salaries for elected officials. Now, to your point, Madam Chairwoman, this may not be something we want to implement for this year, but this is perhaps something that would probably be more prudent to implement in a later year. I 110% support that logic. If we can't get it done this year and they're in this fiscal year budget, let's look at a future year, perhaps when the city may not be in financial oversight. Knock on wood. And this is something that we can move upon, because financial oversight has a lot of impact on the city's operations day to day, to the extent that it always surprises me that this is not the first thing on elected officials' minds when we're here on the dais every 2 weeks. Just to give you some examples, right now, for not just the elected officials events, for all events, even that the city puts on, we're not able to pay any of the vendors in advance. So that's a big challenge when certain top talent or sometimes the best in the field, the best DJs, the best planner, the best PR firm. They want their money up front, or at least a portion of it. And that's just not something while we're under financial oversight that we're allowed or permitted to do. In addition, other cities give their elected officials credit cards for reimbursable expenses for if they're attending an event like for events that they're going to be attending, for memberships or for clubs where they're representing the city for gas to attend these events. Right now, not even myself or any of my staff, and certainly not the elected officials, are able to have credit cards. So that's something that the Financial Oversight Board has not allowed us to move forward on. So I think to tie into this conversation, it is you're right to include into that conversation where's our standing with the Financial Oversight Committee. Now, I have presented a plan, a tentative plan that has gotten tacit approval to pull us out of financial oversight within the next 9 to 12 months. I'm going to continue to shore up that plan, execute on that plan, and I have the utmost confidence that we'll get that done. And we will pull, after being under financial oversight since 2016, I believe, we will finally pull ourselves from under the state. That will free up this conversation about compensation for our elected officials tremendously, because we won't have a state board saying, oh, we saw what you did down there. We like this, but we didn't like that. We'll approve this, and this is definitely no. So I think to have an enaction date that commences sometime in the future, a year from now, or a future budget is the most prudent way to go. Now to speak directly about the money, which is Board Member Banks' primary concern and all of our concerns. Yes. Now, let's assume that we do I think Miami Gardens just increased their compensation for elected officials to $40,000. That's our sister city. It's a little larger it's dramatically larger than us, but it has some similar demographics. Let's say City of Opa-locka adopted that number. So we're looking at 40,000 times 5. So we have a $200,000 budget item. Now, $200,000 against a $54 million budget with a $19 million active is something that we could probably easily absorb. We could easily absorb that if I got a direction from the commission or following a recommendation from the Charter Review Board to enact that, I could make that happen. There are some things we'd have to tighten up on, and that's what the conversation is. It's a constant tightening. Now, again, addressing Ms. Banks' concern, I'm also in agreement that it does not look well. The optics are not there to say, hey, we're going to move, we're going to move the salary for elected officials and not act upon the employees that do work, 40 hours a week. To that extent, that's another reason why I think in the future, not this fiscal year, but in a future fiscal year, that's something we could work on, particularly since we're closing the gap on 2 of our union contracts. Our ASME contract, which will implement a $15 minimum wage, and our PBA contract, which will increase our police salaries by $10,000. So that's also going to have a dramatic impact fiscally. The PBA contract alone is going to cost us about $1 million easily. Now, the good news is our tax base is increasing. When we just received our budgetary analysis from the state, we are expecting another $800,000 minimum from tax base based off of our valuations that we had not budgeted in previous years. So that goes a long way. And I anticipate with the amount of growth that is planned for the city, over $100 million in capital improvement projects, that we can continue to see an increase in our taxable income. Very excited about that. So if you own your property, please don't sell it. That's my recommendation to you for city manager. But I do expect to see continual increase of that revenue stream. So I do believe that marketable salary is fair. I do believe a calculation should be done based off of a review of sister cities. My recommendation in that is something that you consider for a future fiscal year.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Very informative, and I think it's right along the lines where we are going. Everyone that sits on this board is very, very concerned about the fiscal impact because we're residents. I was just looking at my taxes from last year to this year have increased, but I did home improvements to my home as well. And I do want my property to be of value. I don't want it to be devalued. I know in the past, some of our homes in Opa-locka have been devalued. So I think given what you said, and I think that the relationship with your office and the oversight office is crucial to any decisions that are made. So your office keeping a good relationship with the oversight board gives them a more favorable look on us as a city. So I am one that believe that employees should be compensated. I think it works. I've been an employer for over 20 something years. So I know what it is to have employees up to, many employees, not just a few. And I know what morale of the employees are. We understand that we've just come out of COVID. Well, we're partially still in COVID. Partially still in COVID, and that has caused some financial challenges to families and to people as well, because some people are still experiencing not being able to go to work because of COVID, kids being out of school and you can't send them to school. So that means somebody has to stay home and take care of them. So we understand that. And I think that this board, and I can say this, have worked very hard, and I think they're very passionate about this charter review process. And I think that we're taking it very serious. I've never been on a charter review board before. This is my first time, and definitely first time chairing a board of such. But the information that we have been given through the clerk's office, through the attorney's office, and now through your office have really been a great help to us. And I appreciate it because it has educated me in some areas that I have just gone by word of mouth. So once you get the charter and you go through it yourself and really dig into it, there are a lot of things that you see that, things that can't be changed. One thing the attorney said to us that everything doesn't necessarily have to be in your charter. It could be in your code of ordinance, so you want to try to keep your charter as tight as you can, not just so much all over the place. So again, I applaud and appreciate all of the help that we've worked the city clerk's office. I think sometime more than the commission. Sometime more than the commission. I told Chris, Mr. Wills, I called him, I said, this Ms. Russell again, but don't be mad at me, please. Because we have been trying to make a decision, being in a financial oversight, having people on the board of different experiences. Ms. Banks have been an employee of the city for years. She understands that process, so we want to be diligent in this responsibility. And we also want to have as much information as we can so that we can make a good, sound decision at the end of the day. So that being said, for me, any questions of the manager?
Yes, I have one.
Vice Chair.
So you mentioned that the State Oversight Board has rejected all recommendations that you all have made to increase the salaries of the commission, but I'd be curious, if it were written into the charter, would they still reject it, or would they have to abide by what the citizens have voted on?
I think that is a very interesting legal question that I would have to defer to the city attorney.
Thank you for that. And your question, as I understand it, is whether if it's written in, will you repeat it?
Absolutely. So if it were voted on by the citizens, so let's say we, put it into the next election, it was voted on by the citizens, would the oversight board, so the state oversight board, would they have the ability to reject it again?
And the answer would be no.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Banks, you have all your questions answered. Ms. Banks is gonna tear us up here.
I'm not the bad guy.
No, we know
I'm
you're
not.
not. You're just passionate
I'm
about
just,
what you're doing.
You know,
And
for
I
years of working with the
appreciate that.
city, I've always been the lady who handled the money. I'm concerned about the money. Coming from departments where you have no money, it's an impact on you. Any employee, it's an impact. Impact on good bosses too. It affects them. So my concern is, and again, I think the board knows where I stand.
Yes,
They do.
yes.
I've made it very clear. When you get ready to go and if our city manager went and borrowed some money from a loan company. And the loan company said, what do you need? And this is a metaphor. I don't want anybody to take anything personal.
You gotta talk a little
But
louder, Ms. Banks.
If you go and you take and the loan company gives you $5,000 and you say, that's what I need to get myself straight. And they give you this loan and they give you the perimeters and the guidelines of what they expect you to pay back. And then 30 days later, you go back to them and you say, I need more money. You mismanaged somehow. Somewhere you mismanaged how you needed to use that money. That's all I'm saying. We need to know where it's going to come from, where it's going to be taken from, if we're going to even put it out there. I know the final vote's going to come from the people. I sit on this board, but I am the people also. So I know what my vote's going to be when I immediately get it, okay? Because I look at my taxes and my water bill and the cost of keeping my home up and everything that goes along with being a good citizen here. It costs. It comes with a cost. Everything comes with a cost. So all I'm interested in is, and you answered it, I thank you, city manager, I thank you, Madam Chair and Vice Chair, I thank you all. I got my answer. I'm very satisfied with that. I mean, I feel like whatever we're gonna do, we need to do it.
Okay. Go ahead, Vice Chair.
One more thing. So I appreciate the work that you all put into kind of working the formula, coming back to us saying, hey, that doesn't really work for what we're trying to accomplish. As a follow-up, I know you mentioned that you all can come up with something. Can I ask that you work with the team to present that to us for our next board meeting?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Board members, what I think would be feasible as well is if we had maybe two scenarios to present rather than just one. If we came up, because Mr. Manager, we talked about cell phones and cars, and then I think it was Board Member Finn that said that instead of doing all of that, just have it all inclusive of, if I give you $10,000, that's inclusive of, your car needs, whatever car, I think it was board member right here. Said that it's inclusive of everything that you need, so we don't have to give you a car allowance. It would be included in that. I told him that the one thing that I didn't think could be is a cell phone, because those cell phones are property of the city. And if anything ever happens and they have to be subpoenaed, they could take those cell phones and, so I think the city has to.
We pulled the cell phone out when we had our last discussion.
Yes, okay,
So the
okay,
cell phone was part of the city.
okay.
I honestly think it's very good what you brought up. I think that if we were to wait for next year, will be you're trying to straighten it out and put all the money and all the income. There's a lot of things going on in the city, good things,
That's right.
good things. That if we push it down the line a little bit, you get out of the oversight board, now you're driving the car. The city's driving the car again. So you have your budget, you crunch some numbers, and you figure out what you can give out to the employees, to the commission,
Yes,
that makes economic sense.
Yes.
yes. And if I
And-
could expand
ahead,
on that, Madam.
Mr. Manager.
Thank you. To board member Vega's point, when I initially proposed well, let me back up even a little bit further. At $38,000 starting annual salary, the city of Opa-locka has the lowest starting salary for our police force in the entire state of Florida, for all cities of its size. When I initially proposed a $10,000 increase, which we estimated would cost us about $1.8 million, my entire team, including Mr. Anathan, my budget guru,
He is that.
looked at me like I was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But I came in over the weekends and we looked at every penny and every dollar, and it looks like we've got it covered. Now we're looking at a minimum wage increase, which is not going to be much from what's already been negotiated, $15 for our ASME contracts, but it's that important to me that we take care of the employees first. But those are huge budgetary constraints that I, of my own fruition, have decided to put forward for my agenda for the city of Opa-locka. And to his point, we can only push that train so far at this time. I would, if directed, would I find the money from somewhere? Absolutely. We could do that. But to Ms. Banks' point, at the cost of what? And to Mr. Vega's point, particularly when we're going to be in a much better position in the subsequent fiscal year.
So we will be looking at the fiscal year 22, 23.
23, 24.
23, 24. So you'll be, it will go into effect that following, but not, okay, so the budget year coming up is 22, 23. So you'll be
yes.
looking at 23, 24
Correct.
budget year. That sounds reasonable.
And Madam Chair.
Yes,
if I-
ma'am.
If I may, please. At that time, we can make, whether we're here on this board or whoever's on this board, you can make a better decision on the amount of money. Because you can actually see the budget if I pray that we'll come out of the oversight. And we paid the loan, we paid that debt. And therefore we can see where we're going. So we need to write a check, we can write a check. If everyone understands what I'm saying, I mean, you know, I'm a country girl, I'm from Alabama, so it comes out that way, okay? But you know, to just sit down and just say, I'm gonna take this road and I'm gonna give this money. People in the community say, okay, you're gonna vote yes for it. Then it kicks back on our city manager, because he's in charge of day-to-day operations.
But there's a lot of projects going on,
A lot of
new
budget.
income that the city's gonna be receiving,
Right.
Mhm.
Revenue,
and the money can come out of that.
That's right.
We'll be out.
There are many line items that money can be pulled from in order to give the commissioners a substantial salary. All I'm saying is we cannot do this right now. We don't even want to send that message to the oversight board that we're actually trying to make decisions to give them money, give them an increase, to even insinuate that to our public when look at what we're going through in the community. I mean, we've got high prices everywhere. Everywhere, things are going up sky high. People are trying to deal with everyday life. And we're gonna send a message to our people. We're thinking about giving them money. And we're in the midst of a financial crisis right now.
So I wanna
You're
I just-
outside of the oversight, and it takes time to build up capital.
Yes.
Yes.
So really
You
quickly,
save, you have new income, you manage it correctly with time, it builds up capital, reserve
Yes.
capital.
Yes.
We've got
Uh,
new projects.
And
before-
We've got new
we
projects.
gotta
coming
run the
into
city like a business.
Yes, of
And it would
course.
work.
Of course, we all agree
And
with
the
that.
potential, there's plenty of potential in this city.
Yes,
So it's not a problem that tomorrow things are not gonna be better.
yes.
Things are only going in the right direction.
Yeah, and can I just add one clarification, Board Member Banks? So we are simply making recommendations that go to the people, right? So the people are voting on this. So if the people say that they want this, right, it is the people that are speaking. We're simply making recommendations. So it's not like we are making a decision. So I want to make sure that we're, that is a subtle nuance, but it's an important one, right? At the end of the day, the residents get to vote on this. And so we're just making recommendations based on the research that we've been presented, based on all the amazing experts who have come up here and, provided their insight since they're involved in it day to day. We are simply making recommendations based on that information. We put it in the hands of the people.
But the
But we
community is
represent-
gonna ask, are we out?
We represent the people.
We outside out of the
Mr. Baker,
oversight
I'm
board?
sorry.
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Mr.
Go
Baker.
ahead.
The first question the community is gonna ask. Are we out of the oversight board? Because they're gonna, they're gonna ask that. Yes, we are. That's gonna be a plus. No, we're doing this. These are new things, new projects, new things are happening in the city. COVID, we put COVID behind. Everybody's back to work. Things are getting normal back again. And I think that's the time to do it.
And I believe that all of us up here understand that the people are the ones that's going to ultimately make the decision. But if it's something that we are going to recommend, we as board members, we're gonna have to also push the issue because it would have been a waste of our time. And I know this, the salary of the commission is just one item that we're looking at, but we don't want to come and have wait 6 months, 8 months, and then we get out in the community and talk negative about what we're trying to do, because all of us have the interests of the residents, because that's what we are, and the citizens, and also the businesses at hand. Because as the city flourish, we the people, we reap the benefits. So since this is not the first time that I've been involved with the city, that they've been through financial oversight. The city have been through financial oversight before and came out. I believe, correct me somebody if I'm wrong, that the state, since the city have been in financial oversight, the state haven't given the city money to come out. The city have just tightened their belts, been prudent how they handle the money, got businesses to come into the community, because that's how you're gonna generate money. New homeowners coming in, businesses coming into the community, bringing money. And so we, the citizens, have to build our community so that it can be viable. But if we don't talk positive and think positive about it, then it's not going to happen. So with all of the things that are in place and that are being generated, and we can all agree that we do see some good things going on in the city and things that's going to generate monies for the city. So I think I asked the question and then went on. The state have not given the cities money to pull them out. The city have tightened their belt. Can you speak to that, Mr. Manager? I know you haven't been here that long, but you can look at the books and the papers and tell us what's going on.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. The state has not provided any funding or financing to the city of Opa-locka to come out of financial oversight. They've felt strongly, as you do, that by tightening the belt and being fiscally responsible, that we'd be able to do it on our own. And I'm of the same opinion as well.
Yes.
Are there monies due to us from the state? Like, is there money that we would expect once we come out of financial oversight?
No, there's money we can lose, but there's not money that is due to us, that's owed to us.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? for the
What did we lose? It's a question. If you're not gonna get something and you're gonna lose something, or maybe, or what's exposure? What do you?
Well, okay, I'll have that conversation. The state oversight is responsible for fiscal activity. They monitor fiscal activity by review of audits. The city of Opa-locka is several years behind in its audits. We've been historically lagging and continually ask for extensions. The two previous city managers, both Mr. Pate and Mr. Wright, asked for extensions on the current 2020. We're now closing out fiscal year 2020, although we're in the year 2022 and going into fiscal year 22-23. So you can see we're several years behind. As for extensions, usually ask for 30 days extension. They generally respond fairly quickly. Unfortunately, we have not gotten a response back. I did have a Zoom call meeting with JLAG on last Thursday, where we had this discussion and it went very, very well. They want to see a few things and get a firm timeline of when do we think that we could complete a 2020 audit before giving a response, an official response. But I do believe that we can get that extension done. But then immediately the next question that was already proffered is, when are you going to get done your 2021 and 22? And will we be in 23 then? And why is that important? To answer your question directly, what we can lose. We get a percentage, the state sends us revenues from tax bases, which is due a percentage based on our size and our income. And sometimes they do a matching. Grants are always handled this way too. They can hold back and even permanently deny that funding if they feel that the audits are not being done appropriately. And that's the opportunity where you can lose.
So when do you think that you might be sort of up to date with your audits?
My goal is to have the 2020 audit done by August 1st and to have the 2021 audit completed by December of this year.
Okay, 6 months.
Yes, sir.
See, we're going in the right direction.
Yes.
You see?
Mr. Vega, ever since you've been on this board, you've been a lightning of nothing but positivity. We're going in the right direction. So, and we all agree with you. We are going in the right direction. And I understand the importance of audits. I have to do independent audits every year. And, you know, even as a small nonprofit, if you don't have your audits in line, you don't get no reimbursement. I mean, not upfront reimbursement. And working in the nonprofit sector, you can also attest to that. But I think that we have the information that we need in that area. I don't know whether the manager can speak to the concern that we had about the employee, what was it, Ms. Banks? The Citizens Review Board. Civil Service Board. It was in the charter at one time. It was taken out of the charter. And Board Member Riley and Board Member Banks would have liked to see it possibly put back in the charter, because they feel like if it was in the charter, it's something that you have to do. We requested from HR and they told us that those regulations, rules and regulations, policies and procedures that were part of that board still exist within the city of Opa-locka. Is just now within a court of ordinance. It's not in the charter. So that was a concern, that if it's in the charter, it's something you got to do regardless. But I was under the impression, even if it's a policy and procedure and it's not being followed, you still have to follow it if it's policy and procedure. I see we have something here from HR, I guess this would be. Ms. Banks, is this to your satisfaction? Or how do you, what do you?
Madam Chair, if it meets, we voted on that item and we voted it down. So to my knowledge, the advice of the city attorney, to my knowledge, when we voted it down, that meant it stays in the code of ethics.
Okay.
The code of
Stays
ethics.
in the code.
of ethics.
Okay.
But I mean, this information here, I requested the information so that the board could see it.
Okay.
And I spoke from an employee, an ex-employee.
Okay.
If our employees are right now waiting for the AFNI contract, financially, we have good employees, as I have stated, that need to be compensated before we move into this. Okay. And if you've got, and I'm saying this from someone who has also worked that HR experience, okay? If you have a weak HR department where nothing is actually, where the commission have voted on policies and procedures, which I know they have since 2007, that are very active. But if your HR department is weak, no disrespect to our HR people, if it's weak and it's not helping the people and they don't know anything about it, if they have a grievance, some of them, most of them don't even know that there's a grievance, there's a way to go and handle the grievance. Does it not state in here? And it tells us, the previous one they gave us was how to handle a grievance. When they come in and they're employees, they should be given a package, and that package should walk them through everything that the city expects of them. Sign off on that package that you got it and put that in the employee's file.
So
For political reasons, legal reasons also.
yes, but
I mean, but I didn't get that information. That information was from the board.
okay.
I already know it. And again, like I said, this is for you all, if you all want to.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
we do have a memorandum that the Assistant City Attorney has prepared, and I know Chris is going to have copies for you before you leave today. So we just have some comparisons of what it was before. There was a question asked about the legal impact. There was also a question about the history. And so Ms. Cobb has included all of that into her memorandum.
Okay, great. I tell you, we really have worked, y'all. Okay, anything else for the city manager before he leaves? So we gave him a little bit of homework as well.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
just a question, back to the memorandum just mentioned by the city attorney. Our office has not received that memorandum, so perhaps if she can resend it to us.
She's been discussing it with the assistant city clerk, so he's aware of it and it's gonna be sent to him.
Yeah, it should have been sent. He hasn't gotten it yet, so we're gonna resend it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, next, did Ms. Johnson get on? Okay, sorry. She gonna do this. Okay. We apologize, Ms. Johnson. We had a little technical difficulty there, but we know you will get us in line. You will get us in line.
Madam Chair, you have anything else for me?
Board members, is there anything else we need from the manager? Except for the next time you come, you're gonna, or send someone, you're gonna have us that information that we need. She back. Oh, hello. Ms. Johnson.
I'm here. Hello.
We apologize for the technical difficulties. We're gonna open back citizens forum, and in someone, you're gonna have us that information.
Hello.
Oh, okay. We're gonna open back citizens forum. Did you hear the discussion earlier?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Citizens
Okay,
input is open. You can go now.
okay, thank you so much. And I was glad to hear the remarks from the manager as well as the attorney and other board members. But and I think we said it previously, but based on the current financial condition of the city currently now, I would like to strongly encourage the committee to perhaps work on it in an ad hoc advisory capacity, but not to put it on the 2022 general election ballot. I think that will be fruitful. As a reminder to the committee, it's always what is your intent and the perception during the critical time of emergency finance. First of all, what I would like to add value to is that we should have a certain percentage of reserve funds in our account. I don't hear that coming up often. The state of Florida does not normally, and I was there in 2002 when I came in on the commission, we was in emergency finance. But the state of Florida does not provide funds to the city or municipal government to offset its financial difficulties. However, that board ensured that policy, procedures, transparency, and accountability is there and is being adhered to by the commission, its employees through the audit process. Now, I've come up through the public input and have made suggestions. I don't know where it is currently now, but right now, in order for us to go forward, the current interim city manager has an appointment on the audit committee. And I think he should be thinking about now, what is that person? So whenever the completion, I'm hearing August date, from the previous manager, I heard May. So we already passed May because now it's June 2nd. We need to be thinking about that so we can get off from the board and off running in the positive direction as many of the board members and staff has said. But I do think that it is crucial that you all look at the employee pay scales. And I think now we're going in the right direction, which was started by the previous city manager and picked up by the interim city manager now, because it has been 9 years. And if you're talking about morale and performance and evaluations, that should be a priority. We also, this committee need to be fruitful and also very advisable on events sponsored by the commission. We don't have those type of funds, and we don't want to put that perception that we do. We don't. Secondly, size does matter. I think this is a time that we can, the committee, the commission, and the community can take advantage of this time to rebuild the trust in the community at large. I think that's crucial. I am still in support of the single member district being on, but I want to, before I conclude, the Civil Service Board, and I am certified, trained as a human resource manager. And if it's not where the employee has a comfort level of the procedures, because when we came in, Commissioner Jordan brought Miami-Dade County that worked with, at that time, Janie Beverly, a team of people to come up with an employee handbook. And if that needs to be amended so the employee can know the procedures of getting things done, we need to update that. And if there is not, then we put it in the code. But if we have to put a safety net, because although it can be an ordinance, the trigger part of the gray line for me is that an ordinance can be changed by the commission. So it's more safe in the charter but it's also safe in an ordinance. But what I've seen in the past 3 or 4 years, we don't get a lot of citizens input. So with a lot of citizens input, and a lot of citizens don't know the question to even ask. So it's just glazed through. But there should always be a safety net there, in my opinion, for employees to know what their rights are. And I'm hearing positive feedback from employees. I don't know what's going on, but it appears to be going in the right direction. But we don't want to glaze over because somebody got promoted. We want to glaze on because it's the right thing to do. It's just make good business sense. And although it's a municipal government, it's still a business. So I do agree with what I've heard thus far, but you have time to put things in order and it should not be a rush. I do think the salary need to be increased, but the timing may not be now. And I think you can work it out through your workshops, citizens input, but it needs to be where it can be a buy-in, although it will go to the voters to be voted upon. But the climate that we're in right now and the feedback that I've gathered from not one or two, from one side of the community to another, when I weigh everything together, I'm not feeling a strong commitment from the ones that I've spoken to in the community at large to support any. So we need to prove, we the city need to prove to the citizens what is the best interest and the business people. So, I hear some silent conversation or rumor about annexation, but we got to go back and look at the past. And some people don't want to know the past, but in order for you to know the future, you need to know the past. And the past with wisdom and teamwork, we can, as a community, one team, one city can get the job done. Thank you very much. And I think you're on the right track together. Have a nice day. God bless you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. We appreciate your input. You're always here to give us some insight. And we are, as a board, I think we've already kind of put it in our mind to ask the commission that after our duties are here for this election, if this board can continue so that we could take a stronger dive, as you say, into the single member districting concept. And because I think that's something that needs a lot of time and workshop and work to see how that would look and see what was put together in the past. And, to look at some of those documents. So that is on the radar for us to ask the commission if we can continue with this board. So thank you again very much. I think, Mr. Manager, I don't think we have any more, nothing else for the manager. As the teacher would say, you could be excused.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You all have a good night.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. Okay, all right. Anything else we need to discuss? I saw the documents that were given to us about the duties of the mayor and vice mayor in other city councils. I think we need to take that and look at it. That was something that was brought up, that the duties of the mayor be outlined in the charter, just as the duties of the city manager is outlined in the charter. So that's something that we can look at. And I've gained a lot of information tonight. I'm in overload. So anything else we need to discuss?
Yes, so I have a couple of questions, and I think maybe one of them is for the city attorney. So and I'll ask both of them at the same time. So my first question is, Madam City Attorney, do we have the ability to propose language that is presented to the commission that then goes on the ballot? So one of the things that we heard from folks in the audience, and I believe maybe some folks on the board as well, was that previously when we presented charter amendment changes, it all came in the form of like one question. Do you agree to these changes? And so folks were ultimately voting on a few different things under one question. And so they all kind of got turned down. And so as I start to think through what voting looks like up here, I'm curious to know if we have the ability to actually propose that language to the commission, or if you have any other recommendations on how we should go about this process.
Through the chair, there are very specific provisions in Florida statutes that deal with how ballot language is supposed to be laid out. And generally, it's going to be a ballot question for each issue that you're looking to propose. There is a certain number of words that you have to have. There's a certain number of words in the title, in the body of the document. It has to be done in a certain format. And so through legal, once you all have your questions and the issues that you want to propose, we will then construct those in a way that meets the statutory requirements. So, but it should be single subject. So there may be 6 questions. I mean, it depends on, you probably want to be somewhat conscientious because not to limit your work or anything like that, but the supervisor of elections ballot will grow on pages based upon, and it may be, a cost factor for the city based upon the number of pages that you have, because they also will have other ballot questions from, or maybe the county commission may have ballot questions, who knows? But so there will not just be city of Opa-locka's, will be candidate issues, it will be candidate ballot, for the selection of candidates, it will be ballot questions. And so if you have, a certain number of things that you're looking to accomplish, you may want to think about it in terms of, is this going to, do we need 6 questions? Maybe we're really concerned about 3 issues or 2 issues, just to throw it out there.
I appreciate that. And so with that kind of leads me to my next question, which is, I'd like us to perhaps at the next meeting begin to vote on some of these items. I am a little concerned that we're going to start to run out of time. And so there is obviously, I imagine, further discussion, then there's the voting on the items. And then we have to decide as a board if we actually want to think through some of this language that we're recommending, because, we could make a recommendation to the commission, but then somewhere along the way, that wording could get changed that perhaps loses a bit of our intention. So I'm conscious about like how we recommend that right language and where that fits into the process. But I say all that to say, I know kind of going around in circles a bit here, but ultimately I'd love to see us begin to vote on some of these issues, perhaps at our next meeting. And then maybe we can figure out how we work on some of the language with the city attorney's office for presentation to the commission.
Well, that was going to be my, at our next meeting, that was going to be that we need to bring some closure. That's why I'm for some things I was thinking that you might want to pose 2 questions. That's why I was asking, can you put 2 questions on the ballot? Because I know once before when salaries was on the ballot, then they had something in there about deferred, I think it was deferred compensation or something like that. And that's what made the citizens not vote for it, because they felt like they were trying to put something in that really should not have been in it. So it was voted down. Other than that, it might have been voted, they might have gotten it. So how do we work this process, Madam Clerk? How should we, what is your suggestions, and also the attorney, what is your suggestions as to how we go about doing this?
Well, through the chair, I think that what you probably want to do is just get a reminder from the clerk what the deadline is for the amendments to go to the supervisor of elections office. And then if your goal is to have some votes taken at the next meeting, and I know also the clerk and I may have some suggestions too as to at least one issue that you may want to consider. It's not ready yet, but we'll have a suggestion for you that may clarify something in the charter. But we will try to turn it around as quickly as we can from legal. So as soon as you all vote, we will get working on it and try to turn those questions around so that they can hopefully appear on the next, based on when the supervisor needs the questions. We'll try to get it to appear on the next agenda. So we'll work however we need to work to try to get your questions turned around in an ordinance format. Now, this is, of course, going to be something that will come as a recommendation. So this is, you all are in an advisory capacity, so the commission can do, what they want. They can actually change it, they can revise it, they can do whatever. But we'll at least try to get the issues in the format that it needs to be in to the commission timely. And Madam Clerk, if you know what that date is, that would be helpful.
Madam Clerk, yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, so the deadline for the November 8th, 2022 election is July 29th. That we have to have the resolution adopted by the City Commission to the Supervisor of Elections for Miami-Dade County. And I did request permission from the Supervisor of Elections to include up to 10 ballot questions on the November 8th ballot. So, we have approval at this time for up to 10 ballot questions.
So in the effort of us getting really clear about dates, right? Because I know that you've provided this date to us and I appreciate it quite a few times. So if it has to go to the supervisor of election on July 29th, when is the commission meeting that happens right before that?
So let me just look at my calendar really quick and I'll tell you.
And while you're pulling that up, a question that I have for everyone, do we believe that the commission needs just kind of one commission meeting to look at this, or do we think they need two commission meetings to have this discussion?
To answer your question through the chair, we'll need to be in an ordinance format, so it will be 2 meetings.
Okay.
So the meeting is, we have 2 commission meetings in July 13th and July 27th. So the commission would at least have to, if it's going to be presented by ordinance, the final adoption needs to take place July 27th.
So then my next question for you is, if a meeting is on July 13th, when do you need the material so that it makes it in the package?
So the deadline for the July 13th meeting is 2 weeks prior to the 13th.
Yes. So we need to, at our next meeting is June. When is our next-
June. Is it second? June 16th.
June 16th. So what we can anticipate is when we come to the next meeting, wrap up any loose ends that we have with the information that we're gonna get from the city manager about the question of the compensation. And if we're gonna put it on the ballot for this term, with the date of implementation, if that's the way that the board wants to go. Or, whatever it is we're going to do, we need to at least have that in our mind so that the clerk would know what she's basically dealing with, and also the attorney. And then if we're going to vote on the language for the spelling out of the duties of the mayor, if that's going to be on the ballot, we need to have that done as well. And I think those were the only, we said we need to vote the next time around if we're going to workshop the single member district and more, and ask the commission to give us, to extend our board for a longer period of time so that we can workshop that, because that's probably going to take some time, I would imagine. And what other questions did we have?
So I don't think I'm maybe directly answering your question, but the one thing I would like to make the recommendation for this board's consideration is, so our next meeting is June 16th. Perhaps we consider also meeting on June 23rd, because I have a feeling that we might not wrap up every single thing we need to at that next meeting. But by June 23rd, we have to have it wrapped up because it needs to go to the clerk's office by June 29th, which only gives us a few days after that. And I think to your point, I absolutely agree that one of the recommendations that we make to the board is that we continue our service after this set of recommendations for this ballot for, you know, some of these larger items that just is going to take a little bit longer.
How do you feel about that, Madam Clerk?
That's fine with me. The only thing we need to check for availability on the 23rd for this room. And once we confirm that, you know, we'll just double check with all the members as well to make sure that everyone is available.
Thank you.
So June, so we would have 2 more meetings in the month of June. That would be okay with everyone? Ms. Banks, you shaking your head.
Because I'm on another board, I won't be able to make that and be there too.
On June the 23rd,
23rd, yeah.
that's a city board, meets that night?
It's another board with another municipality.
Oh, okay. I just want to, if it was a city board, I was gonna say we can't even meet on that night because they would be using the building. Okay.
Is there another night? I mean, I'm happy. And I don't know.
You all can, you know,
It's fine. It's fine with me as long as it's not June the 20th.
That sounds like that might be somebody's birthday. So maybe we even look at June 22nd. I know you're going to look at the availability, but I want to be clear that I know I threw out June 23rd, but I'm not married to that date.
That's a Thursday.
That is a Thursday. Yes. I was just keeping it consistent, but if we want to do June 22nd, I'm open to that. I mean, I'm open to any other day.
Yes. We just have
Madam
to-
Chair?
Yes.
So the Historic Preservation Board is meeting June 23rd in this room at 6.
Okay.
Oh, that should
All
be
right.
on my phone.
So would you look and see what other day we have available? And then you could poll the board and see what time, you know, if that's convenient for everybody. But we need to have at least 2 more meetings before we send it to the commission.
That's fine. So we have a commission meeting June 22nd. I mean, would 5 o'clock work? June 22nd, you'll have 2 hours prior to the start of the commission meeting. That's just a recommendation.
But 5 o'clock seemingly wasn't a good time for everybody.
Oh,
That's
okay.
fine with me, but
I would make it work as well.
Okay, so I'll check with the other members as well,
Okay.
just to make sure that they're available. And once we get confirmation, we'll shoot out an email to everyone.
okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I know we're trying to wrap up, but I have one more thing. So sorry. So thank you very much, Assistant Clerk Willis, for pulling this information together. So I just do want to, since we are going to quickly begin to vote on things, I do want everyone to know what they have in front of them. So I asked Mr. Wills to pull together what other municipalities have in their charters as it relates to the form of government. So the ones that he's pulled, most of them are similar in size. Some of them are a little bit larger, but they, you know, as I've mentioned previously, one of the things that I'd like us to consider is defining the role of the mayor, because we know that that is different from the rest of the commission. And so what you'll see in front of you are ways that other municipalities have defined the mayor's role. Even as you look at this, you see that these are things that our mayor is already doing. It's just not baked into our charter. And so I know we're trying to get out of here. I won't spend that much time on
You're
it, but
fine, you're fine.
but I did just want to kind of preempt the document that is in front of you and the conversation that I would like to have. So it is worth kind of looking through it to see what other municipalities have done previously. Thank you.
Madam Chair, one question.
Yes, ma'am.
I want you to understand something. The document I have in front of me is representing that we would like to make a change from the status of what our mayor is right now, with a future recommendation of moving into something different as far as their job description, their job title. Is it just something that we're going to post, or is it something that we would like to make a change as far as our mayor status?
I don't think we are looking at changing
Okay.
the status of the mayor. I think what we're looking at the duties that already exist
Mhm.
for the mayor and just have them outlined in the charter. We're not looking at the mayor for different compensation or anything different than what they're doing, just to have the duties outlined in the charter, because they're not outlined in the charter.
Okay.
So as you can see, this document in other cities, mayors have different responsibilities than what our mayor does. But that, I don't think that's the intent.
No, you absolutely got it correct. Thank you.
Okay, okay. It's just to outline the
Just an
duties.
outline.
Yes,
Thank you,
yes.
Madam Chair.
Okay. Very fruitful meeting, everybody, very fruitful. Let's go home. The Heat not playing, so going on. Watch Golden State Tampa. Motion to adjourn.
Second, or do you need, I'll make a motion.
I second it.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.